Hey everybody, welcome back to part 2 of intermediate Paceline skills. So this is part 2 of our ride, and a couple things that I wanted to point out about this particular ride. This is, as I mentioned on a previous video, this is our 60-mile long route. One of the things that surprised us about this ride, surprised is maybe the wrong word, because we expect it to be hot in South Florida, but it was hot. Even for us, it just caught us out, and you'll see the effects of the heat on some of our cyclists. So this road that we're making this right-hand turn on right here, this is Flamingo Road, which is one of our turn-up zones. It's our last turn-up zone before we start kind of bringing things home. We're maybe about 10 miles left on the ride, and just because people were hurting, we had a few people who looked like they were about to blow their gaskets, or right there at the limit. We'd already dropped somebody. We wanted to make sure that we kept everybody together, so we decided to ride this area back a little bit more conservative, using the strength and numbers of the Paceline. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a double Paceline, where both cyclists are going to try to pull off at the same time. We're going to keep I'm going to use the word speed steady, but that's really not what we're doing. What we're doing is we're focusing on keeping the effort steady. And if you look at my heart rate throughout this segment, you'll see that my heart rate kind of hovers around 165. A few times it'll get a little bit higher than that. A few times it'll get a little bit lower than that. But it'll kind of stay in a range of about 165 beats per minute. And what that's an indication of is that we're not so much focusing on trying to keep it at 22 or 23 or 27 miles an hour. What we're really focusing on doing is we're trying to maintain a moderate effort, or be kind of like an effort that would be like between moderate and high. Again, we're going into a headwind right here, so it's not like it's a picnic, but we're gonna do this, and a couple times we're gonna have to make sure that we use some shout outs and things like that, just to make sure that people don't start surging and things like that. But for the most part, you'll see that everybody does their part in terms of pulling through and pulling off, and keeping, like I said, not so much the speed steady, but the effort steady. So keep an eye on that heart rate gauge just to see what goes on. The other thing you'll notice is that nobody's taking really long pulls. They're just kind of like, keeping it kind of conservative in terms of the length of time that we're up there. We're sharing the workload. So we've just heard one of the cyclists mention to the guy in the front to remember to rotate. And again, it's one of those things where, yeah, you may be able to, you're strong, you're feeling good, you could sit up there all day as well, but the idea is to share the work. We don't want anybody sitting in for too long, getting cold and things like that. So we want to make sure that we keep the machine churning. The other thing that I will point out on here is that riding in South Florida, there is a myth about riding in South Florida. People just assume that because it's flat that it's easy, and There's not much to it, but two things that typically happen when people come down here to ride from rolling terrain or where they're having a lot of climbs. The whole idea of pedaling non-stop without having opportunities to coast like on descents and things like that always catches people out. Yes, we pedal pretty much non-stop, and it's one of those things that if you're not prepared for it, it'll surprise you in terms of the difficulty of it or the challenges that it poses. But please take note that as we go through our drills here, you'll notice that there is no freewheeling, literally no freewheeling. Everybody's just maintaining pressure on the pedals. Everybody's pedaling smoothly and efficiently. We're adjusting our speed as you know, from between the rider, the bike in front of us. We adjust it just by reducing the amount of pressure that we're applying to the pedals so that we keep it nice and steady and we keep it nice and smooth. We're not getting the yo-yo effect so that people are doing intervals and things like that. So when you've got it working like this, it's a beautiful thing. Here you see Zaid coming through. Gives me an opportunity to point something out. If you're in a group like this and for whatever reason you feel like you want to stretch your legs, you want to go a little bit faster, I think it's important that you do that come around from the back. It's not so much an attack. He just wanted to stretch his legs, so he did it from the back. It's kind of like poor etiquette that if a group has made a decision to ride at a certain pace or a certain effort, if you want to stretch your legs, don't do it off the front where you create confusion and you start changing the speed of the entire group, unless that's okay. But if it's a thing where we're like, hey, we're focusing on keeping it steady, you don't change the speed from the front, or you don't do surges from the front, you don't attack from the front. Come from the back, just roll right past. If you feel like you want to move away from the group and do something for a little while to stretch your legs, like what Zaid and Snake just did.
So, you know, hopefully people watch it and know what to expect, you know, riding with the group. What the expectation is.
The brutal heat. We're making a quick stop. Yeah, because Jay is back there, right?
Checking on me?
Yeah, you're good. You know that?
I can see it in your Cut the strap.
That's that motor I got in the bottom bracket.
Worked out.
Thanks, Sherwin. I don't. Does that help?
Yeah, in case I faint. God dang.
As I said, it was hot. Sherwin concerned about fainting or passing out. You never realize how hot it is until you actually get to a place where you stop and you no longer get the benefit of the wind blowing on your body. But yeah, this will go down as one of the hottest days that I can ever remember being out on the bike. So we just left a little area where we kind of like, if somebody's gotten dropped, there's a Walmart at that corner where we wait and make sure that we regroup so that the next few miles here we can take everybody back into the starting point safely. So we're just gonna get back into doing what we're doing before, which is just rolling that double Paceline. This is home stretch, and I mean home stretch for real. We are on Palm Avenue, Nob Hill Road, and we're just going to kind of bring it in. I'm not going to call this a turn-up zone, but there are times on this little section right here where, because the road's nice and we're close to the finish, where the speed just kind of does sometimes get up a little bit. But for the first part of it, we're going to actually, again, we're going to keep the group together. We're going to just keep consistent with the rotation, and nothing special, nothing fancy. We're just going to kind of keep the effort the same. So typically for me, when I'm at a second wheel, depending on what's going on also with the wind and things like that, this is the point where if it's windy, I'm going to get into the drops at this point, because when the person in front of me pulls off, there's an extra 30% effort that I'm now putting into the pedals. So just to keep my comfort the same and be able to, again, maintain my effort, I try to get as aero as I possibly can whenever it's my turn, and I'll typically stay in the drops until I come off. Sometimes I'll stay in the drops until I get all the way back in towards the back of the Paceline where I'm now picking up the draft. So one of the things that I do is when I pull off, like I did right here, I'll ease off for a second and the riders are going to start to come around me. Before I get halfway through, I start reapplying pressure to the pedals. I'm not accelerating yet, but I'm making sure that acceleration is not going to be a task. So when it's time for me to tuck back into the wheels, it's not a problem. I'm able to get that done because I've prepared myself for it. I didn't freewheel all the way back. I'm pedaling pretty much all the way back. I just take a quick break, and that's why it's important not to stay on the front to the point where you're exhausted and you need the brake. You don't stay on the front of a Paceline until you need the brake. You stay on the front and you come off when it's comfortable.
This is a smaller group. Y'all got like 40 people. That's not what they told me. They said they had like
last week it was a bunch of people.
No. Last week we did the 40 and the turn.
Yeah.
Before that, they told me you guys were doing like 30, 35 on 84.
Yeah.
Like 30 people.
No. It wasn't 30 people.
They were doing 30, 35.
That's what BJ said.
They were.
And that's pretty much it. One of the things, again, I wanted to share about what we did here on this ride is if we rode the way how we rode since from the time we got on Flamingo, even though we've almost got 60 miles in our legs, if we kept that pace, even with this heat and everybody's fatigue, we could have easily ridden another 40 or 50 miles if we did it that way, sharing the work, rotating through, no surges and things like that. And that's the power and the benefit to riding in a smooth Paceline where you're sharing the workload, you're riding consistently. Again, it's not about heroics, it's about being efficient. There's lots of different ways to do a Paceline. Today was just a demonstration of how to do it with a shared workload where we're controlling our efforts and making sure that people can ride above their level with the safety and benefit of the group. So anyway, guys, that's it in this last 2 series of videos. Again, our aim at the channel is always to inform, instruct, inspire. I certainly hope that we've managed to do that. Please subscribe, give a like, comment, and share. And as always, guys, be blessed.